Good day, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. My name is Sami Tunji, and I'll be moderating the webinar today. I think most of our panelists are here, and we can proceed to be on time. So thank you all, everyone, for joining us today. I'll go ahead to introduce all the panelists one by one. For those joining us, thank you. Today we'll be discussing on navigating African tech landscape, looking at data availability, privacy, compliance, and global trust, discussions around that. And we have very, very distinguished, I can see a number of them already online. We have very, very distinguished panelists, and we look forward to learning from their wealth of knowledge as we proceed in the next 2 hours. Once again, my name is Sami Tunji. I'll be moderating this session. And first on my panelist list, and why I like this list of panelists, because we have people from the private sector, people from the public sector, and hopefully it's going to be a very engaging session. For others joining us, whenever you have any question, you can just drop it in the chat box and I should see it, then I can ask our panelists. So first on my panelist list, I'll be introducing. So if I call your name, dear panelists, you can just wave or say hello, or you can just say something briefly. Then I'll proceed to read your bio. So I can see Ihab Abdulbaset Anaki, Professor, Doctor, Engineer. I can say thank you for joining us, Professor Anaki. So let me just read your bio quickly so that people will know that, yes, we have a very distinguished set of panelists joining us today. Professor Dr. Engineer Ihab Abdulbasat Anaki is a leading expert in artificial intelligence and virtual reality with a strong focus on the applications in neuroscience, healthcare, and education. Anaki is a multi-day conference in artificial intelligence and advanced development at École supérieure de l'éducation et de la formation, University Mohammed Premier, which his research delves into virtual reality, artificial intelligence, time series analysis, particularly as applied to neuroscience and cognitive processes. His PhD specializes in virtual reality, machine learning, deep learning with focus on cognitive modeling through immersive and intelligent systems. With a background in data science, Professor Anaki has extensive hands-on experience in data engineering, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. He has a proven track record in building and optimizing AI systems, translating complex technical concepts into practical, impactful outcomes. This includes designing AI-driven platforms for clinical decision-making, developing data-driven educational tools, and researching neural interfaces to better understand brain dynamics and human cognition. He has served as a consultant in enterprise content management, electronic document management, and digitalization. At INSEA, as an INSEA alumnus, Professor Anaki's specialties include artificial intelligence and machine learning, virtual and augmented reality, data engineering and business intelligence, and AI solutions for healthcare, neuroscience, and education. He's passionate about fostering cross-disciplinary collaboration, mentoring future data scientists and engineering, and pushing the boundaries of AI to improve lives and enhance learning. So you can react with emoji just to cheer up Professor Anaki. Thank you very much. Thank you, Prof. It's a pleasure to have you. You want to say just a sentence or something so that those listening can hear your voice?
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Prof. Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. What about you, sir?
Thank you so much. Everything is all right. It's quite a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, same here, same here. You're currently in Morocco, right?
Yes, exactly.
I spent that today.
It's it's quite actually changing. So sometimes it's quite hot, sometimes it might be raining. We have weird weather. What about Nigeria? I hope everything is all right.
It's quite, I'm in a very cold city called Jos at the moment, so it's quite cold here.
Ah, I see. You're lucky.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's a pleasure meeting you. We'll discuss more as we progress. Thank you very much. So next on my list, I'm not sure is with us here. Nana Kalumba. Are you here with us, Mr. Nana? Okay,
yes,
I think it's here with us. Oh, thank you.
I think I'm here, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a pleasure having you, sir. Let me quickly run through your bio, then you can just say hello to all of us officially. Sure. Thank you. Nana Kalumba is a technology for development expert with over a decade of experience in specializing in the complex intersection of technology, data, and privacy. With extensive international experience at global organizations like the United Nations and USAID, Nana has a proven track record of deploying technology to address some of Africa's most pressing data challenges. His work focuses on architecting ethical challenges. His work focuses on architecting ethical and secure data platforms and advising governments and partners on creating tech strategies that are both innovative and compliant with global standards. His efforts are aimed at fostering the trust and transparency necessary for a secure digital future. Nana is a highly qualified strategist certified by Harvard and MIT. He holds MSc in IT management from Lancaster University and is a fellow at the Association for Artificial Intelligence Management and Financial Institutes. This rare blend of on-the-ground technical expertise in Africa and a deep understanding of policy framework allows him to build a secure and trusted digital future for the continent. Another emoji for Nana. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Nana, for joining us today. It's a pleasure having you, sir. You want to just say hello, hi to everyone listening to us today?
Yes, thank you, Sammy. It's good to be here. Good to be among the wonderful panel. And I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next on my list, a lady I've known, I think, probably for 3 to 4 years now, thereabouts. So, Miss Atinuke Nuke. Hello, Atinuke. It's good to see you, although virtually, not physically. So let me just run through your bio quickly, then you can say hello to us, Atinuke. Atinuke is a dynamic, results-oriented media and public relations expert with over 16 years of experience in broadcast media, strategic communication, and stakeholder management. With more than 16 years in the field, Atinuke possesses proven expertise in a wide range of public relations disciplines. Her skills include handling high-stakes communication initiatives, monitoring media trends, and advising executive on reputation management and strategic public engagement. She's also adept at fostering internet communications and collaboration to ensure messaging is aligned with organizational goals. Atinuke currently serves as technical assistant on media and public communications to the National Commissioner of the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, Dr. Vincent Olatunji. In this key role, she is responsible for managing media relations and public communications for the Commission. A certified data protection officer from the Institute of Information Management, Atinuke has a strong foundation for her current role. She also has completed advanced training in policy and strategic studies and legislative studies, which enables her to align our public relations strategies effectively with legislative and policy-driven objectives. She's a proud member of the prestigious Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. Hello, Atinuke. I think you need to unmute and so that we can hear you. Thank you.
Pardon me.
It's okay.
Hello, Sammy.
Yeah,
and
good to see you.
Hello to the other panelists. It's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. So I look forward to getting your perspective from the public sector. And I think you can also cover both private, because you have once in private sector, I think, at one point, so you can cover both. So I look forward to an interesting engagement with you.
Same here. Thank you.
Up next, I have Vincent Junior Piri. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Pleasure to meet you. So I'll read through your back quickly, then you can just say hello to everyone.
Sure.
Vincent Jr. is a final year PhD candidate and a recognized expert in the application of Industry 4.0 with specialized focus on pharmaceutical sector. Currently a PhD candidate at National High School of Mechanics and Electricity, Hassan II University of Casablanca, Morocco. Furi's research focuses on implementing Industry 4.0 in the pharmaceutical sector. His work specifically involves designing solutions for Farm 4.0 implementation and integrating digital tools with Lean Six Sigma methodologies. He aims to advance smart manufacturing practices in regulated environments by bridging operational excellence with emerging technologies. Piri holds a Master of Engineering in Agri-Food Industrial Engineering. He's also a highly certified professional holding the prestigious title of Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. His recent scholarly work has made significant contributions to the field. He has authored publications on key topics such as enterprise-wide Pharma 4.0 adoption and an in-depth analysis of its implementation challenges and potential solution, and a comprehensive look at the Industry 4.0 research landscape in Africa. So, hello, Piri. Is Piri the first name or surname?
It's my surname.
Okay, so I should call you Vincent or?
Yeah, Vincent.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Hello everyone. I'm truly honored to be here and I'm looking forward to interacting with each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And I think last on my list, if I'm not mistaken, is another person from the public sector. And I can see him online already, representing the Statistician General, Prince Adeyemi Adeniran. We have Dr. Salihu Isaac, Director of ICT at the MBS. It's a pleasure having you here, sir.
Thank you very much. Happy to join you people, please.
Yeah, thank you for helping us with the echo. Thank you. It seems you're in the office this weekend. Well done, sir. Sorry for dragging you out.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. We can hear you, sir. Can you hear me too, sir? Hello, Dr. Salihu.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to be part of you people today.
Okay, sir. But can you hear me too, sir?
Yes, very clearly.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you very much. We look forward to an interesting conversation with you, sir. Thank you. So welcome everyone once again. We have to keep about 30 minutes and we have just probably 1 hour, 47 minutes to go. And we have 5 panelists and a lot of things to talk about. So we'll look at the theme of the event, navigating African tech landscape, tech data availability, privacy, compliance, global trust. So let's start with the first part, that sub-theme of data availability. And I'll start with Piri, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
What extent would you say African data is available, and what would you say are like the likely challenges around obtaining data in Africa?
Okay, well, firstly, thank you for that question. It's quite a good question. And well, where data availability is concerned, I think if we are to say on a scale of 1 to 10, it would depend on what sector you're looking at. So it's quite difficult to really pinpoint to say this is how much data is available, because it depends based on what are you looking for, what kind of data you're looking for. It can be maybe as simple as statistical data on a country, which sometimes might be hard to really verify whether it's available or not. So in terms of availability, I would say data is available, but it depends on what exactly are you looking at. Now, coming to, sorry.
Okay, I want to say that limiting it to the sector you work in from your own personal or professional experience.
Right. So if you look at, for instance, my experience with research on, the pharmaceutical industry, I think data is available, but it's in terms of accessing it, which is a challenge. So for instance, if you are to look at say the current development in the pharmaceutical industry, particularly in Africa, it would be difficult for you to really find what is really happening, except for a few things here and there. So data is available, but accessibility perhaps is the most challenging factor in it all. Now, where challenges where data availability are concerned at an industrial level, I think the greatest problem is legacy infrastructure. So we have infrastructure challenges, whereas just collecting data, let's say, from different processes is challenging in itself. A lot of outdated infrastructure. From a short survey I'd conducted some few months ago, I think that is the top challenge that we have where data availability is concerned. So legacy infrastructure makes data availability a huge challenge. But also it's a question of regulatory complexity and also fragility at the same time. It's complex, but also it can be very fragile. So that helps, that rather makes data availability a challenge. You find inconsistent policies, for instance, slow approvals and lack of that data sharing. There's no much sharing data between maybe the different pharmaceutical organizations, or maybe from one country to the next. How is, say, maybe Morocco doing compared to Ghana, compared to Zambia, South Africa, and stuff like that. So there are those issues. Again, the challenges of security. So those are some of the major challenges that you can think about. But my focus personally is mostly at an industrial level, looking at an industry. We have problems of system fragmentation. So the quality department keeps their data, sales department keeps their data. So that kind of disconnect between different data sources is a massive challenge, which perhaps has to be first addressed by improving infrastructure, and then on and on we can go.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Perry. You have broad perspective from the area of industrialization and also the private sector. So let me switch to Dr. Saliu for a public sector perspective. MBS is known to collect data, is the government's data body. Dr. Saliu, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So we had Vincent spoke about the issues around data sharing. I think it's also something that the MBS can relate to, especially since you collect data from different organizations to create your reports. What similar challenges do you face when getting data, and to what extent do you say data is available?
Good morning, all.
Good morning, sir.
I'm Dr. Saliu Isaac from National Bureau of Statistics. National Bureau of Statistics is only the government agency that is mandated to be custodian of statistical data. We collect, analyze, archive, and disseminate. So far, presently, National Bureau of Statistics in Nigeria has recently launched a cloud source data collection initiative aimed at to gather and report economic data, especially on the daily prices tracking across the country. This cloud source data collection includes open market, supermarket, neighborhood shops, street vendors, and box stores and large-scale outlets across the 37 states, including the FCT. Most of the challenges so far could be many African nations grapple with the fragmented data ecosystem inequalities and limited access to high quality data sets. The only way to address most of these gaps is investing on data center and cloud infrastructure, promotion open data initiatives to foster transparency, strengthening data literacy across all the sectors. As Nigeria as a national broadcast system, I could say vividly that we have enough data. We have data on Nigerian labor force, Nigerian living standard, and multiple poverty index. And we have more that I cannot mention here. We have, if you go to the National Bureau of Statistics website, there's a portion there that we call NADA. So anyone can easily go there and visit this platform, download data on various sectors. This is made available for public to use. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Salihu. Thank you for that insight on data available, made available by the MBS. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much.
So let's move a bit to back to the private sector. I'll go to Professor Hiab. You have experience with the health and education sector, and Vincent has given us a brief insight on challenges with pharmaceutical industry and all that when it comes to data availability. Now, based on the two persons that have spoken from Vincent to Dr. Salihu, it's evident that data is available. There's an amount of data out there. But now let's move to privacy. How do we create a balance between open data and also protecting such data, especially in a way that it does not discourage innovation, both in the education sector and in health? How can we create that balance between protecting data and making data available, open data? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
First of all, thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you, to be with the other panelists and all the audience. So I would love to start actually not from my own perspective, but to read down on Ferry and Dr. Salihu answers, which is especially when it comes to speaking about industry, public sector, or speaking about certainly data related to machines, maybe some data related to finances, which is not as quite sensitive, especially it is sensitive. I'm not saying it's not sensitive, but it's not related to directly to the human factor. So what happens mostly when we speak about education, certainly, and healthcare, we have, for example, let's take the healthcare part. We have a huge issue when it comes to especially when it comes to not only research, but developing and innovating. So what happens mostly, we can't exchange data, even if it's available within different healthcare facilities, public or private, because mostly it might cause many issues to the privacy of the different patients and the population itself. And that leads to we were speaking about data availability, but here in this case, we speak about a certain data scarcity. So what happens mostly is that, for example, I will give an example, real life example. It's what we call data anonymization. So mostly what happens to create this balance. So instead of having personal data, we could protect and anonymize the whole data and keep it in a certain way, just a certain numbers or IDs related to the actual data. For example, let's speak about following up a disease or following up a certain level of education we're trying to analyze and get those insights. So mostly this data anonymization is not quite easy, especially when it comes to doctors. I've been collaborating with many doctors. They are skeptical, not in a bad way, but they are certainly not sure where, especially when it comes to neuroscience, we're speaking about cognitive processes and education, because we're speaking about something quite sensitive that needs not only interventions of who get the data and who will use the data, but also the different stakeholders. We're speaking about public sector, which means we need more policies that protects data that we have. I know Nigeria have in 2023 the Data Protection Convention. Also in Morocco, we have what we call CNDP, which is a convention to protect personal data. And at the same time, we need also to have not only these regulations, but also transparency, especially when it comes to how we will use this data. Because mostly, once the data is shared, that's good, but we don't know at the end of the day, maybe we're gonna solve a certain problem, but behind there might be actually some, I would say, not transparent ways of using this data. It might be sold, it might be used to harm others. So this is not only, it's a whole ecosystem to be built to create this balance between privacy, innovation, being able to share, making data accessible, and at the same time being able to collaborate in an open environment. And I go back to the point that was mentioned by Dr. Saleh Humphrey. We have also the challenge of infrastructure. And when we speak about infrastructure, let's take the example of cloud. We need actually data centers in Africa, within those countries. There are data centers, but those data centers should get bigger, so we can avoid fragmented data. We can be able to have certainly local data centers and at the same time collaborative data centers between the whole continent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Ihab. Thank you. So let's go back to the public sector. I'll speak with Atunuke. Now, as a data protection officer, also with your work at the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, what do you think is your role of government in ensuring effective data privacy? To what extent can this role be balanced in a way that don't affect the innovative spirit of data operating companies, or companies that handle data? Do you understand? You need to, okay. Yeah,
yes, I'd like to get that again.
Now, your role as a data protection officer and your role at the Nigerian Data Protection, what would you say is the role of government in ensuring effective data protection, and how can this role be played in a way that it will not kind of, let me say, harm certain organizations that handle data, so that they're able to innovate and also effectively use such data?
Okay, so the Nigerian Data Protection Commission has a legal regulatory framework. What are these legal regulatory framework? Where we operate under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We also have the NDP Act 2023. And then we also have the guide, that's the General Application Implementation Directives. So with these three, it covers all the scope operating under data protection, privacy, and compliance. So how are we able to monitor this and still ensure that we're able to manage it in such a way that you're complying, and at the end of the day, you're facing the challenge of managing data protection and the processing of data. How do we do this? The DPO would always ensure that there's duty of care. Every organization or every data controller owes their data subjects duty of care. Now, there's also what we call compliance, the principles of law processing and data, the principles of data protection. Once you follow the principles of data protection, which covers transparency, lawful basis, there's a purpose limitation, and it contains all the principle of data protection and protecting processing. Once you follow all of this, of course, you would be able to comply. Then we'll also, as the data protection officer, advise DPIE. There's what's called DPIE, that is data protection and implementation assessment, impact assessment. You'll follow that from time to time. Once you carry that out from time to time, you'll be able to detect if a data subject, the data subject has been breached, or if you're always following the rules and regulation in compliance with the NDP Act. I hope that has answered your question. Else, I would elaborate more.
Thank you. I'm very grateful. Thank you, Atineke. Now let's go to our development experts. Nena, can you hear me? So, give me your experience with USAID and UN. What are the most significant policy challenges in establishing ethical and secure data platforms in developing African economics?
Thank you very much, and good to be here again. Good to hear from all the panelists. I think this range of private and public sector gives a good overview of the situation. But I mean, from my own experience, the policies and the policy challenges is not about a lack of will, but I think it's more on some structural issues. So for one, there is a lagging problem of the policy lagging behind the technology. So in many places in Africa, you find that the technology moves faster, maybe at a lightning speed, while policy making, it moves at a much more slower pace. For instance, we know how the technologies like generative AI has now been very, very much adopted, kind of almost overnight. Everyone now is using some AI tool. However, the regulatory framework around it is still, is still upcoming. So it's almost like a catch-up environment where there already be issues like the privacy concerns on data, algorithmic bias in these AI systems. So this kind of creates kind of a struggle of catch up with the policy. So that's one of the issues I see. There's also the kind of context gap. So sometimes we are just tempted to maybe do like a copy and paste of what is existing in the West. But this approach will not work for our local context, particularly because there are different ways we work. We have different literacy rates, and then the way we even interact with some of these technologies are different. So we also will need some type of homegrown policies where we are kind of factoring in our own unique contextual or cultural issues. We have a very large informal economy. So all these kind of our diverse cultural norms needs to be factored into some kind of innovative policy around data protection or data privacy. Also, I think there's something to do about with the enforcement. And I'm happy that I think Atineke works with the Nigerian Data Protection Agency, because I think that the government needs to empower these agencies to be able to enforce the policy that have been made. Most times in many other African contexts, you see that the data protection authorities are not well funded, they're understaffed, the technical expertise is not as it should be. But without this robust enforcement mechanisms, it would just be on paper. So we need to address those gaps. The gap of I mentioned the gap of policy lagging behind the technology, the context of our local context, and then enforcement of the policies by the regulatory agencies. Those are kind of the most critical policy tasks to build that kind of trusted digital trust in Africa.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So before moving ahead, I just want Atinuke to respond a bit to some of the things that Nana raised. So what is the level of enforcement from the Commission, and what are the challenges when enforcing data privacy, data protection, from your own personal experience so far with the Commission?
Yes, I'm trying to get the points. You talked about enforcement, right?
Yeah.
Enforcement.
One of the issues, like there's a need for efficient enforcement to ensure that certain data challenges and all that are being addressed in Africa. So how is the Data Protection Commission driving efficient enforcement, obviously in Nigeria, and what are the challenges towards enforcing data privacy and protection so far?
Okay, yes, he spoke about the challenges, and first of all, I'll let you know the challenges that the Commission is facing at the moment. Now, the NDPC is just 2 years old, ever since the enactment in 2023, June 12, 2023. Now, the staff strength is not as much to enforce in the 37 states. So that's actually why the NDPC is not catering for household issues or household incidents. So what the NDPC is concentrating on now are just MDAs and the organizations, and of course, startups and all of that. Now, in carrying out this enforcement, we have issues of retaining staff. There are most times that we train staff. When you train them, poachers come and they take them, especially when they are already on ground and they are doing very well. We have issue of misinformation. Like I said, data, you understand data in 3 different aspects. One, some people still call the Commission to complain about their data depletion. When we're talking about probably telecom operator, they think when you say NDPC or data management, you're talking about the data that you use for your phone. Data gathering, some people think that we're about population. Data too has to do with numbers and population. So now trying to let people know in form of awareness that data privacy has to do with your value, has to do with your information that is your asset. Misinformation is one of the challenges that we're facing. And of course, awareness, trying to create awareness, just like boiling ring in the ocean for the Commission that is just starting 2 years ago to spread through the 37 states, trying to create awareness. Another very big issue we have is funding. We're being funded by the Nigerian Communications Commission and of course, NIDA. And we're trying as much as possible if we can be getting our direct funding, that's budget from the government. So funding is really an issue if it's not for other partners, development partners and other partners who care, probably carry one thing or the other as per sponsorship. So now trying to implement enforcement. Of course, we have our compliance department. We encourage MDAs. We have a lot of collaborations with the national orientation agencies and a whole lot of sister organizations. That's actually how we drive enforcement. So we make use of them, the Nigerian Immigration Service, a whole lot of them. So when we have collaborations and memorandum of understanding with these sister agencies, we're able to, through them, make sure that they enforce these things. Then we also have capacity building for these people. So once we have capacity building for MDAs and organizations like this, they're able to detect all of this, and then it trickles down to a whole lot of sectors. So, of course, we also have the guide, which I was telling you, we just issued the guide this year. It is an elaborate part of the NDP Act. So with this guide, you are able to, implement by just going on the internet. You don't even really need to. Most of our journals are automized. You just go on the internet, you get it. I think the DPIA form is on the Schedule 4 of the guide. So you could just go, you don't even need to be a data protection officer. You just go, check it, and then you're able to know. So this information is available to the public. And we also find out that we do not currently have enough data protection officers. So what the commission is doing is trying to train and retrain through our collaborative efforts. We train, in fact, we train almost every month. So when we train, we'll also encourage the people that we train to retrain, so that one way or the other, it trickles down. It's just like a branch. It's like a branch. Once you train, you retrain, and it trickles down like that. I think for now, that is the efforts that we're making.
Thank you very much, Atinka. Very, very insightful comments on that. So those in the private sector, still apologize. I still want to speak with someone in the public sector, just to respond to some of the issues that Nana raised. Dr. Salihu, while Nana was speaking, he mentioned sometimes African policymakers tend to copy and paste Western policy and try to recreate. And sometimes, can you just mute for now, please? Thank you, Dr. Salihu. Okay, thank you. So we'll find a situation where African policymakers copy and paste Western policy, especially in different sectors generally. So my question now is, there's still an echo from your side, Dr. Salihu. I think you're using two devices at the same time.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, I think it's
can hear you.
Okay, there's still an echo from your side, but hopefully we can manage. I think you need to mute one device.
I've already done that.
Okay. So how does the MBS ensure that its methodologies and technologies and methodologies used in data gathering meet global standards while still remaining relevant to local realities? Do you get the question?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's happening, but I see that. Okay, try to speak. Let me see if it's better.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you, but it's just echoing, and I'm not sure why. But let's see if we can manage. We cannot hear you anymore, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. It's echoing, but let's see.
You are talking about methodology the MBS use.
Yeah, methodology and technologies. How does the MBS ensure that these methodologies and technologies meet global standard while still being relevant to local realities?
MBS will work hand in hand with international agencies such as World Bank, and we have a laid down procedure.
Sorry, Doctor.
Yes, can I hear you? Can you hear me? Hello?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Yeah, I was told that you should reduce the volume of your other device. So it's the sound from your other device that is creating the echo. So can you help us to just turn off the volume of your other device?
It's already muted.
So like turn off the volume. The volume is what is creating the sound from the other device. It's what is creating the echo. Is there a way for you to just...
Out of now?
Okay, better. Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can proceed now, sir. No more echo. Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for
Can you hear me now?
yes,
can you hear
we
me?
can. Yes, we can. We can proceed, sir.
Okay. We have MBS, we have field services and methodology. Their major responsibility is to drive every data collection whenever MBS is embarking on. And the modern way that MBS is using now for data collection is use of copy devices, which is computer personal interview. These copy devices, we have an expert in NBS that design program with building constraints and instruction in such a way that when the enumerators are in the field, they obey all the rules and regulations of data collection. The use of these copy devices has enabled MBS, of which I know quite all right, every other countries deploy the same method of data collection too. MBS is no more using a paper questionnaire. So the use of these copy devices has actually enhanced our data quality.
Okay,
and also make MBS to deliver the output of the data collection at when it is planned for. Unlike the time when we were using a paper questionnaire for data collection, when the enumerator will be on the field for 2 weeks for data collection, after 2 weeks again, we'll start moving the questionnaire from one location to the headquarters. We'll now make use of at least 3 weeks again for data entry. But this time around, it is the enumerator that's disseminating the questionnaire to the respondent. Will also be the person again inputting the data on the devices. And as soon as data is being done, it is synchronized automatically to the headquarters. So these have been our major ways of making sure that MBS is on top of its work. I don't know whether I've answered your question.
Yeah, to a great extent. Thank you. So the second leg of that question is how does the data being presented, how does it reflect the true reality of Nigerians, true local realities? That's the second leg. You mentioned how certain devices being used there to ensure that yes, the data are up to date, are upgraded, meeting global standards. So the second part is still a bit missing, but I don't know if you still want to speak more or we can just proceed.
Having to know, one, most of the survey MPS carried on are being sponsored by World Bank, UNDP. And all along, they have their concept note behind their mind why this project, they intended carrying this project on. And all the surveys so far we have done with them, none of them has ever complained that it does not meet their purpose of doing it. So MBS per se, it is the user of the data who actually come up and say, okay, what we have done, the data we have disseminated to the public actually meet the Nigerian use.
Thank you, Dr. Saliu. Thank you. So now let me come back to our guys in the private sector. And I'll speak first with Piri recent. So yeah, we have heard about the challenges with data collection and data privacy and attempts at driving enforcement to ensure that African data is well protected, privacy is not breached and all that. So from your experience with the pharmaceutical industry, how can we ensure that data collection and analysis are well optimized to drive African industrialization?
Okay, so thank you so much once again for the question. I think optimizing the locally collected data is a good place to start most of the initiatives that might ever come out of either from a country or the entire continent. So when you look at, let's say, at an industrial level, at an organizational level, you find that if we look at, let's say, data that is collected from different departments, when well analyzed, they would point out to, say, projects or initiatives that would be valuable to the organization. So I think the first part begins with properly analyzing the data so that insights are extracted from that data, and then it would be the basis on which improvement initiatives would be built on. So let's say maybe waste that is generated by an organization. We can analyze it, then somehow, let's say, quantify it, and then use it to be presented as a basis to justify the need for maybe, let's say, some level of digitalization to help tackle that problem. So I think if locally collected data, both at an organizational level and also maybe at country level, is well collected, analyzed, it would point out to certain initiatives that would benefit the whole organization and then the country as well. Because one of the things that's clear is that whether you take whatever initiative, be it digitalization in the different names it might carry, be it Industry 4.0, Pharma 4.0, whatsoever, is going to be as effective as much the problem is addressing. So if it's just an initiative for the sake of having an initiative, then it won't be effective, it won't benefit the organization or anyone else per se. So real value of different initiatives is dependent on whether it's really addressing the problem at hand, and that is contingent on the locally collected data and the insights we can extract from it. So I think it's all a question of really finding opportunities from the data that you collect as an organization and then as a country, and then even at the end, I think it can even influence policy formulation that would, help many organizations and other things that might come around that. So yeah, I'm not so sure if I've answered the question properly.
Yeah,
if not, I can clarify further.
Thank you. Thank you. So let me move to Professor Iab, with your knowledge of AI, virtual reality, and likes. Now, AI is like the reigning thing at the moment. So what are the likely risks for data exploitation in Africa? That's part one of my question. And the second part is, to what extent can Africa as a continent leverage the benefits of AI without being exposed to the high risk side of AI? Do you yeah, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So how can we create a balance between the benefit and the risk? And what are the likely risks for African data, especially looking at, I think just about 68% of African countries have data protection laws and all. So especially for countries with not clear regulations around data usage and all, what are the risks for such countries, and how can the continent itself tap into the benefits of AI without being exposed to significant risk?
So thank you so much. I just need the first part of the question. Second part.
Oh, the first part is, yes, with the rise of AI across different sectors, what are the likely risks to data exploitation, around data exploitation in Africa?
Okay. So I would love to answer the two questions mutually, because it's quite important to understand that we're Africans. That's the first step from where we can start. Why I'm talking about this? Because we have a rich culture, which means we have already the huge problem. It's not a problem. It's a quite I would say cultural variety. We have multiple languages. We have certainly different decision making cultures, traditions. Sometimes there is families decision making. So it's not as was said earlier. It's not a Western individual decision-making process. And that's the first, I would say, conviction that we should start with. The second part of this is the data sovereignty. What the main issue that, as I mentioned earlier in the first response when we were speaking about privacy, is we need to have our own infrastructure. For example, in different countries, we still have the internet connectivity gaps. We still have certainly the issue of power supply and stability. So first of all, we should see as Africans what are the main issues that we have from before speaking about artificial intelligence, what are the main issues that we should prioritize and fix, then we can go of how we can exploit that. And I'm speaking about the whole country. So the first thing is we should be able to, especially speaking about collaborating in an ecosystem, universities, with public universities as public sector, but all the public sector institutions from the side, coming to big corporates and companies, especially when you speak about multinational companies that are established here in Africa. We need to establish or to embed the African culture within this corporate world that comes or we import from the Western countries. And at the same time, we need to create this collaborative communications between stakeholders. We speak about more startups within the African panorama and landscape. And this is quite important to have this mutual conversations and exchange about technologies and innovations. And when we speak about artificial intelligence, the fact that what happened lately is that artificial intelligence became just generative artificial intelligence, which is absolutely not the case. Certainly, some people would say that we have dead artificial intelligence like machine learning, but it still means being able to predict, etc. And we can also start with, I would say, prototypes, maybe start with few languages. I will give an example. Here in Morocco, we have a huge problem. I would say we don't have an infrastructure problem. We don't have actually a human resources problem. But the main issue is the literacy, the digital literacy. Even we create, and I guess this is the problem with all the African continents. Even if we create tomorrow an artificial intelligence tools, but the end user, does he actually have all, I would say, all the tools to be able to use this artificial intelligence innovations? So it's actually a whole ecosystems that combines awareness, as was said earlier, and awareness is quite important and also quite expensive. And this is the issue. When we speak about awareness and digital literacy, we can I would give a simple example. We have multiple large language models that were brought from the West or from the East, from China, from America, etc. And what happens mostly that people just start using GPT as their personal companion, speaking about their whole life, what's going on with the day, etc. And this is quite problematic. Why? Because the tool is certainly, they may speak about they are not gathering the data, but behind there might be, even if it's not intentional, there might be some data collection. So this is actually another type of regulation especially when it comes to using Western. I'm not saying we cannot adopt the tools because we're speaking about Africa within the world. So we're part of this world. We can't just go and tell, oh, those tools are used by Western. They are gathering, for example, the data. We're not going to use this technology. No. But the main idea is to be able to create this awareness and be able to introduce and create our main and encourage the local startups, encourage the local youth when they are creating their tools. For example, I would say I'm working in the university. They created multiple incubators just to make sure that those kind of high-tech, edge-tech startups be established within an ecosystem of the university where they are provided by, for example, credits for the cloud, etc., etc. This kind of initiatives that are actually here, and this is another issue because there is the issue of communication between public stakeholders, private stakeholders, and the public community, the whole community. There are multiple opportunities that are not well marketed. And this is another issue. So we can create our solutions, especially when it comes to Africa with all those this culture, variety and richness. We can start by creating our tools, believing that, and we are doing this, and believing and encouraging that someday we can have our own tools, but at the same time, we can always collaborate and communicate. So communication is the key. For example, here I'm in Morocco, but doesn't mean that I'm not in Nigeria, for example, like today with you. We need to exchange more and be more open in a transparent way and in the most encouraging way, especially when it comes to the youthful community and also the whole audience. We might be experts in the field. We might be able to speak with technical words, explain some complex technical data pipeline analysis, creating different, I would say, technical tools that are quite complex. But at the end of the day, we should create for society. So we need to understand and start, as I said from the beginning, from the first step. We are Africans, we have our culture, we have our perspective on things, we have our traditions, and this should be embedded in the whole pipeline, starting from data collection to having go-to-market tools or even tools that will be used by society. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. Yeah, thank you very much. There are some questions for, I don't know, the questions are targeted towards those in the private sector and public sector more. So Atinúkẹ́, there's a question for you. Dr. Salihu, there's a question for you in the chat box. But before that, I want Atinúkẹ́ to respond to a crucial topic, issue that Professor Iyab raised. I will restate it, but Dr. Salihu, please look at the chat box. Immediately Atinúkẹ́ respond, I will come to you. So you can just start thinking about the response to the question in the chat box. Now, Atinúkẹ́, Professor Iyab mentioned the issue of digital literacy and how it's a major problem in Africa. So how is the agency, the commission, driving public awareness around data usage, data protection, and data privacy? How do you think governments in Africa can do better towards ensuring that the African public is well aware of how their data is being used?
All right, okay. So I'll respond using the media model that we're currently using at the NDPC. We have one acronym that we'll keep at the back of our mind: keep it simple and short. That is it, because a lot of people do not understand when you're saying data anonymization, pseudonymization, data subject controller. They don't even want to. Once you say data, like I said earlier, data can be anything to someone who doesn't know it, even to people who are educated. So we keep it simple and short. Then we also have collaborations with the Nigerian Union of Journalists and the Nigerian Internet Reporters Association. That's the journalists who cover everything that has to do with NDPC. So we drive this message by, would also let you know that these people are being trained. Whenever we have any training program and awareness, we train them to be able to understand and simplify it when sending it to the public. Then there's another thing we have, instructional videos, because a whole lot of people do not really understand when you explain things to them. So we have instructional videos. If you go to our social media platforms, we have instructional videos that are very short that would be able to drive home the idea of data privacy and protection. Then another thing we base on is consequences, because people would rather read, do not read me than read me. We've understand that the psychology of the populace, there are a lot of people advertising all the time. So people are already overwhelmed by barrage of advertisements. So what they want is that thing that seems scarce, that information that seems hidden. So that's the model we use. We use consequences, the consequences model to drive information. I'll give you an example. If, for example, somebody has been scammed or something terrible happened to somebody who was careless, we could use that as a point of channel to communicate. So you see that when we monitor our algorithm, people tune in more to consequence system. If there's a consequence on something, people want to know why. So in that way, we're able to drive information. Then we also have what we call the Virtual Privacy Academy, that's VPA. The VPA, we subsidized it because we partnered with other organizations and we're able to subsidize it so that people can go and enroll. Mind you, it is a limited, there are limited slots available, you know. So you just go to the Virtual Privacy Academy, you'll be able to learn with instructional videos how all these things happen. Then we'll also do collaborations like I explained previously. We have Adopt a School initiative in which we started from grassroots. Every DPO and departments of the NDPC were made to adopt a school. Adopting that school, we're able to go drive information. We pick a day or two in a week, and we formed clubs in those schools. Apart from that, universities, NYSC, a whole lot of campaigns that were able to, because, you know, fund is a serious issue when it has to do with awareness. So because of the collaboration and affiliation with consumer advocacy groups and relevant stakeholders, we're able to drive that awareness and use it seamlessly to get through people, especially in the grassroots. I hope that answers the question. I could elaborate if you want more elaboration.
I think we should proceed with the questions for you before I move to Dr. Salihu. So the first question is about the fee requirement for compliance process. The Nigerian data protection currently has a steep financial requirements. I think the person steep, not step, steep financial requirements as part of the compliance process. What is the agency doing to remove such barrier to ensure more penetration? Given your explanation on the challenges that the organization is currently facing, would it be helpful to work with schools? And I think you mentioned earlier about some things that you were already university on. Also, I think you have covered a part of the second, so you just need to speak more on the first. Then for the second question, would the organization consider partnering with existing professional training institutions to provide certification courses? This could be one of the stream of income for the organization. So you want to just answer that before we move to Dr. Salihu? Okay,
so which one of the questions now?
The first one on how the financial requirements for data compliance. So I'm not sure which of the requirements. Is it for data protection officer that want to pay a fine and they want to pay a fee, or organizations that are data compliance? I think there's a fee for them, or because I'm not sure. So yes. How can they, what is the agency do to remove such barriers to ensure that more people are data compliant, more people are able to work with data protection officer, I think, or to interact more with the organization, with the commission? So I don't know if you understand the question, or we shall ask.
Yes. So the what given the organization is currently, okay, would it be helpful to work with schools and academic institutions? Okay, then the first one has
I can't part of that.
Okay, what is the agency doing to remove such barriers to ensure more penetration? So the barriers of what now? Financial requirements?
Yeah, I think it's considered a bit high. I don't know how much is it. But I think for some organizations,
okay,
it's considered
so we have the ordinary high level, right? We have different levels. If you are a data processor or a data, it depends on the data controller. We have the ordinary high level, we have the ultra high level. So all of these organizations have certain fees that they pay, and we'll constantly review them. So I cannot come and tell you ordinary high level has 5,000, ordinary extraordinary ultra high level has also amount of money. Do you know the reason is because it's very dicey. A company or an organization who is ultra high would come as the ordinary high level. Do you understand? I would want to enroll under ordinary high. So what the commission does is liaise with the DCPO or your DPO to know what category you fall under. Once you know the category we fall under, we price you depending on the category you fall under. I hope that answers the question. If there's any other one, I will check.
Yes, I remember when you said your key point, you said something about keep it simple. What does ordinary high mean and what does ultra high mean? Let's understand better. What organizations are considered ordinary high?
Okay, so if you're talking about ordinary high organization, we're talking about probably you are processing data of 500 on and below. If you are extra high level, probably like the telecommunication companies or maybe like the multi-choice companies or something, maybe you're 5 million upwards and everything. So it depends category by category. There are schools, there are small scale enterprises, businesses. So you would fall under each level depending on what the commission, the numbers of benchmark that the commission, exactly, data subject that you are managing. So that's what it means.
Thank you. So for the second part, would the organization consider partnering with existing professional training institutions to provide certification courses?
Yes.
I know you cannot clearly speak on behalf of the organization. So what I would say, how have the organization so far been partnering? Let me switch it that way. Because you cannot speak, you're not the national commissioner, so you cannot just say, oh, the organization will do this. So
but I would like to make it clear that we do not, yes, I'd like to make it clear, we do not make money from these courses. We're commissioned under the federal government. So we do not make any money whatsoever from training people. What we do is partner with organizations that are able to train, that's non-organizations are able to train officers into data protection officers and awareness. So what we do, the training is always free of charge. So if you're hearing about any payments, like the Virtual Protection Academy, the payment is not coming to the commission. Do you understand? It's even subsidized because we already have a memorandum of understanding with them. So that's actually why it's subsidized. That's why I say it's for a limited period. I don't want to mention some of the organizations we have these understandings with. So the commission doesn't make any money from. So if you have anything that is coming from the commission and somebody tells you to pay, don't pay anything. It comes free of charge and it's sector by sector. That's how we handle it. So we don't make money from trainings at all. It's free of charge.
Thank you for the clarity. Thank you. But are there any organization that the commission is working with to deliver some of these certification courses?
Are there
any organizations that the commission is working with to deliver certification courses for data protection officers?
There are a lot of them. Like I was telling you, I don't really want to start mentioning their names. There are a lot of them, a whole lot of them that's, so that it doesn't seem like advert for privacy reasons.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Atineke. So Dr. Saliu, we are back to you, sir. I don't know if you have seen the questions, but I'll read them out. So the first question, I think it relates to your point about you saying a number of the survey done have been sponsored by World Bank, UNDP, and likes. So,
Yes, I'm sorry.
so how does the work NBS ensure that the interest of Nigeria? Yeah, we can hear you, sir. We can hear you. So I'm trying to read out the question in the chat.
So afraid.
Okay. Oh yeah, no problem there.
Yes.
We can respond.
Most of those sponsored survey that NBS embarked onto, the variables on those surveys are tailored toward Nigerian interest. All the variables on the survey are tailored toward Nigerian interest. Not the foreign variables. We all know quite all right. National Bureau of Statistics is one of the federal government agencies. It's not, the agency is not properly funded. So if we keep on waiting until the government release fund to us, we won't have anything to be doing. That is why most of the international agents, they are ready if you have enough, if you have a reason, if you have reason to call on them for support, they'll come to our aids. I can mention but a few. Most of those Nigerian, most of the survey that even the government of Nigeria funded, such as a gross domestic product, GDP, is purely Nigerian, being sponsored. Consumer Price Index, purely Nigeria, being sponsored. And Nigerian labor force survey too. So if, as I was saying that most of our survey are being sponsored by international agency, doesn't mean that maybe they paid for it and the variable there is internationally concerned them alone. No. The whole work is for Nigeria, and what they only come there to do for us is just to give us fund to carry out the exercise.
Thank you very much. Thank you for answering that. Thank you. So now we have heard from those in the public sector back to back. Let's come to the private sector. And Mr. Nana, there's a question for you at the chat box. I don't know if you have seen it yet. You are still with us. I'll read it out. Mr. Nana, still with us?
Yes,
okay,
I'm
perfect. So now we have listened to both the representative from Nigerian Data Protection Commission, and the representative from the National Bureau of Statistics. And the question is, what suggestion or recommendation do you have for these two Nigerian agencies, especially in the area of not copying and paste policies from foreign countries? And what do you think the NBS can do to improve its own data collection campaigns without relying on foreign agency for funding and guidance?
Yes, thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure listening to the public sector and the private sector. I think for the question on what we can do for the policies, we can take an approach of, like I said, not copy and paste, but we can domesticate these global standards. So what we do is that those core principles, we internalize them and take them to our local context. So the core principles still remain the same all over the world, all the time. User consent, for example, data minimization, purpose limitation, user data anonymization. These are kind of like global concepts, and they remain the same. Now, what we need to do is to adapt that into our local context. For example, if there is a farmer somewhere in Jos, he doesn't understand what you mean by, oh, these are the terms and conditions, and you give him 5 pages of documents to read. You know, Professor Ihab already talked about the digital literacy problem. You know, so we need to scale down these policies in a way that our people can understand, and they can also make informed decisions about that data. You know, so when we are kind of localizing these policies, we are, you know, bringing it down, translating it into our language, into the way we can understand them. I once did a project in one of the countries I worked in where for user consent, we actually drew the picture of what we're using the data to do. And so we did like a diagram of, okay, this is the data we'll collect, and this is where we'll send it to, and this is what's going to happen to the data eventually. And with that, we'll get their consent. So that's like, yes, we have the principle of user consent, but we're kind of making it our own, And I think the other issue where she talked about how they can improve their own data collection without funding. I think Dr. Salihu has talked about it. If for instance, Sami gives Dr. Salihu $1 million now, I'm sure he and his team can quickly do all they need to do on data collection. But it's mainly for the funding, So we need to look at it as maybe more of like a partnership with some of these international agencies. They're not dictating what to do. They're just they're partnering with the government agency, and the government agency is the one actually implementing it. So that's kind of the way we need to look around it. Some of the other things that we can do around sensitization, raising awareness to the people, telling them what all these things mean, how it affects them. That will also go a long way in kind of localizing that policy, domesticating these global standards.
Although Dr. Salihu mentioned that some of the surveys are funded by the government, such as GDP and CPI, but how would you, Mr. Nana, that is still for you, how would you advise the government on enhancing funding for government-owned surveys? How can they ensure that MBS is sufficiently funded enough to be independent activities?
So most of the funding will be done through kind of advocacy, So we need to maybe bump it up to some higher government agency, and more sensitization on the benefits. In a way, somehow in Africa we're not too. Many people are not too used to the term, when you talk about data privacy and the risks behind, any data breach or data leak. So there needs to be some kind of sensitization up to the highest level on the dangers of data issues. The world that we live in now is so much data dependent. A lot of things that we do now are now online. A lot of the way we live our lives now, our data is kind of transmitted through everywhere, even from your personal data, your banking data, your educational data, your health data. This is now like the new lifeline, the new blood. So the up to the federal government, there needs to be that kind of sensitization that this is very important. This is priority. If you look at places like other countries, Europe, these things are like top priority for them. They take data privacy very, very seriously. In fact, people can, if something happens to your data, you can actually sue a company, and the repercussion is very, very severe. That's because of the level of sensitization that the government is aware of what the issues are and what the repercussions are. So if we can continue to push those advocacy, have more of these conversations that we're having now, let it get as high as it can get to. The government will know that this is a serious issue, it's a serious problem. We need to invest more money in this. We need to fund these agencies more, fund Mr. Atinike's agency more, fund the MBS more. They need their own kind of autonomy to be able to carry out the processes that they're working on. So I think that's the way we can kind of get more money from the government and maybe rely less on some of these international donors and international funders.
Thank you very much, Nana. Thank you. So, Professor Anaki, there's a question for you in the chat box, and it's around how AI tools are unable to find data about Africa, but I'm not too sure how clear that is, because yes, we already established at the beginning of our conversation that there's sufficient data in Africa, but that does not undermine the fact that there's still that bias against certain things that has to do with Africa. So is this, the question says that many times AI tools are unable to find data about Africa. Is this bias, or does Africa need to do something different? What are the missing gaps for AI adoption in Africa, especially within the African public sector? So you can also use that to look at bias. Now, I think an example is when maybe you ask AI to create a particular image and to give you something that is completely different from what you expect and all that. So you can also look at that when answering the question. Professor Anna, over to you.
Thank you so much. This is quite important question, because let's first start with good intentions. Bias is not something bad. It means that actually the data that, for example, the AI tools was trained on was massively overfitted or trained on a massive data from the West and less data from Africa. So this is the first. The second thing is that mostly the whole digitalization process, certainly we're speaking about Morocco case, Nigeria, Kenya, etc. Those are some of the countries that decided to go on, to start investing, to keep on working, creating regulation frameworks. So there are some African countries that are working ahead. They might have not started earlier, but we're actually working on trying to penetrate more of the internet as it was, especially when you speak about, it's the case in Morocco. We were using more paper records than anything else. So what happened, for example, just to be able to recover the whole legacy, it might take absolutely years. So it won't take a year, or so even if we started in 2010, it's not possible to have the same amount or the same volume of data as was introduced by China or USA or the European countries. So that's the first issue. The second thing is that we're scaling. And I love the proverb that says slowly but surely, which means that we're in a good path. The public sector is currently trying to digitalize the whole process that was mostly based on works. For example, just for here in Morocco, we have multiple services that became 100% digital. So it happens that you don't have like to actually travel like we used to do. There are some stuff that we need to travel to take them. But for example, just let's say the justice paper that says you never did a crime or something, the criminal registry or something, I don't know what's called exactly. It used to take at least a month just to make sure to get this paper, because you should go to the tribunal, then meet a certain service, the service goes, and you have to process it to the top management. I'm speaking about public.
Sorry, Dr. Sally, can you please mute? I think there's an echo coming from your side. Professor, yeah, can you just mute? Just help us unmute.
Okay.
Please. Thank
Go ahead.
You. Yeah, yet to be muted, I think. Oh, okay, you can. Professor, yeah, you can proceed now. Thank you.
So we're working on it, which means that certainly if we keep actually working the same way or going a little bit faster, and especially domesticating each thing that we adopt from the foreign country. Having examples isn't something bad. It's quite interesting because as a researcher, we always start from state of the art. We don't start from actually starting doing stuff from scratch, which means that there is a lot of paths that were investigated that they didn't give results. And we had the opportunity to know they didn't give results. So we don't need to actually retake this path and start rebuilding from scratch and investigating again. So it means that there is a certain work that where the public sector, especially the public sector, needs to be more attractive for the youthful or the freshers because mostly, speaking about the marketing context, working in private sector is more interesting, especially when it comes to salaries. So the public sector need to attract more potentials, more talents, especially when it comes to data, data science, data governance, ethics, uh, privacy policy makers, artificial intelligence creation tools. And as was mentioned earlier, sometimes you train them, you put effort, you invest, and at the end they leave the actual public institution or something. So it's more, it's not, it doesn't mean that we're lacking behind too much. There are gaps, certainly. There are challenges. And also I forgot the most important part. It is the complexity of the language. Because here in Africa, for example, let's take just few documents. In Morocco, we have the Amazigh or the Berber language. If we go to other continents, we have more than 2,000 languages, which means that there are certainly some documents, there is a lot of information that no large language model till today's date can actually be able to use a certain OCR or character recognition or any data extractor to extract this information, which means that if we want to be more or to have more adopted or adapt more solutions that come from foreigner countries to be able to get more contextual related to our African context problems. And that's the more it's more about investing in the youth and funding people. There are many initiatives like I would give example, deep learning in Daba. Certainly, they are making a huge work in Africa. I still recall I was part of the Kago X Google inclusive program, which is quite interesting program that gives the opportunity to different countries around the world to have an insight about the whole data environments, to bring them, to train them, that they are able to go or to start a career in data, which means that there are too many initiatives, there are people working. The only problem is that we need to connect all those efforts and invest in them, fund them, and make sure they go ahead and try to adapt and always start from the cultural context that we have certainly here in Africa. We have diversity and we have certain culture, so we need to adapt everything to our needs specifically. And I hope this answers the
yes. The need for them to adapt to the cultural context of Africa. Thank you very much. Thank you. There's a question for Atinuke and Vincent, but before Atinuke answer, we have not heard from Vincent in a while, so that we'll not leave him behind. So let's come to Vincent quickly.
Okay.
So Vincent, there are two questions for you.
Right.
In the pharmaceutical sector, where your research is focused, what role does data availability play in accelerating innovation and efficiency? Then the second part, with increasing digitalization, data privacy is a growing concern. What key steps should organizations in Africa take to balance innovation with the protection of individual rights?
All right. Well, thank you so much for the questions. To begin with, I think the role of data availability is so crucial because it determines a good number of things. Let's say, for instance, nowadays, where if you look at pharmaceutical development, if you look at if data for different clinical trials and stuff like that was available, it would accelerate massively drug discovery, especially with the advent of artificial intelligence and other techniques. It would make things far, far much better. So that's just like in the context of pharmaceutical development. But because that data is not readily available, there are, of course, regulations and stuff like that to make that data available. But if it was available, I think it would make pharmaceutical development far, far, far much better and faster. You can think about, let's say, the pandemic and how, say different data that relates to such pandemics was available to maybe specific companies or organizations or just publicly accessible to different innovators. It would accelerate that kind of development. Then if you come just to the context of an organization, the availability of data drives most of the improvements that can happen within an organization. If I'm in the production department and I'm aware of what is also happening in the other departments to easily, help me make better decision concerning to what kind of improvements can we do to our department or our system or the entire system to better, help other people. Because it's not just like one area functioning in isolation, but it's a whole system. When you think of it as an entire system, there's need for data to be available to the different stakeholders, different aspects of the system. So basically, data availability plays a huge role in most of the improvements that will happen, most of the innovations, be it in pharmaceutical development, be it just simple digitalization of different processes within an organization. It all depends on the data because it helps drive certain decisions. Then coming to the second question, the different steps that can be taken to ensure, let's say, privacy. I'll talk basically about three things. So in the pharmaceutical industry, there's need, of course, for data integrity. So there are certain measures that have to be put in place to ensure that the data remains accurate and consistent throughout the entire life cycle and ensure traceability. So data integrity becomes, the most crucial aspect, but also its regulations. So as you operate in the pharmaceutical industry or any regulated industry, there's need to ensure that you are complying with the different standards. It can be as simple as just respecting the good automated manufacturing practices or any other regulation that is in place. So that is another thing that has to be well respected, but also security and governance. You need to know who will be accessing the data, how it will be used, and all those stuff. So authenticate users, you have to stay up to date with the different softwares to avoid all things that pertain to cybersecurity. Then even just like controlling who accesses the data. So yes, there is, the need for data to be available, but also there's need to ensure that we know who accesses that data, how it is used, and how we can even protect it further to avoid things that relate to cybersecurity, because the pharmaceutical industry itself is very sensitive. There's a lot of intellectual property that has to be protected, and even workers within an organization need to be protected. They have to be aware of what kind of data can they access and can they give out about the organization and stuff like that. So that's where the steps that can be taken, ensure data integrity, ensure that there's compliance with regulatory standards which are out there publicly, but also security and governance of the data. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you. I think before you answer the questions in the chat box, one of the points that Vincent raised is compliance to regulations. So how would you assess overall compliance so far to the NDPA, both not just from the private sector, but both the private and public sector? What is the rate of response? Has it been positive? Has it been progressive? Or what level of work does the Commission still need to do to ensure high compliance to existing regulations?
So far, it's been tremendously positive, and I'll tell you why. Since you're in the media space yourself, you'll understand that just recently, we wielded our big stick on multi-choice. Multi-choice, for those who are not Nigerians, multi-choice is in charge of cable TV in Nigeria. And yes, we slammed them about 700 and something million naira for breaches that we noticed. And in the past, we've also sanctioned banks, as big banks, loan sharks, and a host of them. So when it has to do with compliance, the commission makes sure that we first, because we're not really heavy on compliance, we want value. We just actually want the companies and MDAs, we want them to, comply, because sanction is always the last card that we have to put on the table. That is actually if we have tried to see if there are remediation processes and they are not really in compliance with that remediation process, that's actually why we sanction. And then the NDPC also makes sure that we carry out licensing of DPOs and constant oversight. And then we'll also mandate them to carry out their audits, annual audits. And apart from the annual audits, we make sure that quarterly they turn in their audit reports. Then, of course, we have our legal department who ensures regulatory actions. Just recently, we found out that there are some organizations that have not yet complied. That's from the public and private sectors that have not complied. From next week, we're going to publish their names, the ones that have not complied with the audits and some other requirements of the NDPC. We're going to put them on major daily newspapers. Also, to let you know that there are some public sectors that the NDPC are willing to sanction. We remember when the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, when they had issues with students and I think they had issues with examination results and all of that. We had to go to JAMB, ask them what happened, discussed with the management and everything. If not that they complied with the remediation processes, you would have seen the sanction. So when it has to do with sanction, the NDPC takes it seriously for both private and public individuals. So I hope that answers what we are doing in terms of compliance.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, the questions in the chat box. What are the sensitization programs put in place for Nigerians to be happy and willing to provide their data where needed but not mandatory? Is there a watch by the NDPC or any agency on the ease at which public office in Nigeria collects data digitally? And there's a case study of the Nigeria National Population Commission, the online platform for Nigerians to get their birth attestation that is so cumbersome to use. So how I think that should be how government agencies should ensure efficient data collection. So I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Okay, so I'll start with the first question. The first question, which has to do with sensitization. Like I mentioned earlier, we have series of awareness programs, apart from capacity buildings and collaborations with various organizations, MDAs, and both private sectors. And of course, we have collaboration with other regulatory bodies. Then we also have responsible data management courses, which are done virtually. Of course, we hold the ones that are done physically, but even if you're not able to attend physically, we encourage you to always attend the responsible management, data management courses. We also have code for privacy hackathon. This code for privacy hackathon is batch to batch, and we'll always put it on our social media platforms. And we also encourage the Nigerian Union of Journalists and, of course, our partners, that's our media partners, to always share all of this. So by that way, people would come, code for hackathon, and then we'll always have a reward, which is usually sponsored by willing partners. Then we'll also have social media contests. Most times we put up a social media contest just to test and know the, just to drive curiosity, drive controversy, drive awareness, and, involve people. Then we have the VPA. I told you about the Virtual Privacy Academy, which is still ongoing, Adopt a School initiative. It's a whole lot. We also have the Data Privacy Week. The Data Privacy Week has a week-long activities where it has to do with various awareness and sensitization programs for the Data Privacy Weeks. Then for future plans, because we have paucity of funds. So for future plans, we intend to transcribe both the Act and most of our in-house journal to the 3 major languages, as the Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo languages, and even trickle it down to some other languages of importance. And then consumer town hall meeting, that's for the future. We'll have to hold consumer town hall meetings with consumer advocacy groups, market women and all of that. And then we also carry out the word of mouth. What we do, we pick a certain time of the week or the month where we go to places like Computer Village, where they sell accessories and all of that. We go to these places to educate them via word of mouth. So we talk to the associations, we're able to talk to them so that whenever you come to interface with them, they're able to, let you know the importance of this. And we also tell them that do not think that you are not at risk. You can be a data controller and you are also a data subject. So it is not about you just telling the data subject what and what it is not, but you should also have this knowledge because it could also put you in trouble. So that is it for the sensitization. I'll go to the second one, that is there a watch by the NDPC or any agency on the ease at which public offices in Nigeria collect data digitally? Yes, we have our compliance organization, that's our compliance department, the legal and enforcement compliance department, which makes sure that we encourage every organization to get a data protection officer, even though Nigeria currently have just below 500,000 data controller, data protection officers. We still encourage each organization to get a data protection officer. Then we'll also encourage you to conduct the DPIA, as I mentioned earlier, the data protection impact assessment, which is available online. So you really do not need a DPO to do that for you. You could just go online and assess that yourself. And we'll encourage that breaches must be reported. Once there is a breach, or once you notice there is a breach, even individually, as a data subject, we have our telephone lines. If you just type NDPC, you would see our telephone lines, our websites, our emails, where you can always report a breach immediately. And then we also have, we also develop internal policies that's aligned with data protection laws. And then, of course, we do a whole lot. And to add to it, the president just issued a directive to MDAs. The president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria just issued a directive to MDAs to follow the NDP Act and do things in line with the NDP Act. So with that, with the compliance tools that we have, that's how we are able to manage digitally data protection. I think she said something at the end. My case study is on National Population Commission and online platform. Like I said, the data that we are about is data protection and privacy. So we're not about data collation like the National Population Commission, NIS, and the rest of that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Atineke. To add to the question, I think the main agency in charge of kind of ensuring ease of doing business and also helping some government agencies to optimize their website and their process, I think that should be paid back to a great extent. So yeah, let's proceed. We have, I think, roughly 12 minutes there about to go. So far, we have discussed data availability. We have looked at privacy concerns. I've talked about compliance. Now let's come to global trust. And trust in data is very crucial for researcher, for investors, for policymaker. Trust is one of, in fact, the most important. How reliable is your data? So I'll start with Dr. Salihu. Around last year, there were some controversies around inflation reports. Some say, oh, the inflation figure for Nigeria was underreported, all that. And there's still arguments around certain data released by the MBS. So what is the MBS doing to build public confidence in Nigerian statistics? Dr. Salihu, can you hear me? Over to you. You can, oh yeah, okay. So how is the MBS building public confidence in Nigerian statistics?
Thank you very much. I'm sure you can hear me well.
Yes, we can, sir. Thank you.
One, Nigeria is too big enough. Too big in such a way that we can't convince everyone that the data MBS released is of high quality. One thing I know with Nigerians is that when MBS releases this figure that favored them, they will be silent. But if it does not, they will see a lot of allegations all over the whole of Nigeria. As I earlier said before, MBS has a high quality expert staff with modern technology for data collection. And once a field work is completed and an analysis is done, we do not just come out to the public and disseminate it. We consult other international experts also to work hand in hand together. So as earlier said, it will be very, very impossible to please the whole of Nigeria on the list of MBS data. But we have been doing all our possible best to see that we will do our best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that very, very brief response. Now, let's stay on the issue of global trust around data. Let me come to Professor Ihab. How can Africa, I think earlier we looked at bias regarding the use of African data, how certain AI solutions are built on more Western data and all that, and maybe a lack of trust or maybe access to African data, who knows? But how can African AI and data-driven products gain trust internationally, especially when questions around data quality and compliance arise?
This is quite an important question. I will try to answer it briefly. The first thing that we need to do is, if we're working on data, as it was mentioned earlier, there are too many regulation acts, etc., that were established locally, but there are international compliance like GDP and other EU Act introduced by Europe, etc. So the idea is to, while processing the data, we can for example, I'm not saying to just avoid any human intervention, but mostly try to objectify through automation pipelines for the whole data analysis, even if it's because I've graduated from the National Institute of Statistics and Applied Economics in Morocco. The main issue is, I would say, if we do the whole pipeline automatically, and also we try to as was mentioned by Dr. Saleho, there is a collaboration with international experts. There is also a third-party judgment and evaluation and assessment of the actual work. There is also the part where the analysis, it's not about trust, it's about always literacy. So I would give a simple example. Many people don't make the difference between a mean and a median, which makes a huge difference statistically speaking. So when I'm telling you that the mean, for example, for something, let's say poverty or something is etc., or the median is etc., especially after an analysis, we use aggregates. We're not speaking, especially, for example, let's say I live in Oujda, which is quite far from Rabat, the capital. So what applies to Rabat might be not really applicable to Oujda, which creates a certain, I would say, a gap between the living reality of a citizen and the numbers within the reports. And this could only solve by literacy and awareness, especially after having all these third parties and expert and international expert collaboration. I hope this answers the actual question.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Ihab. We have 6 minutes to go, but before that, let me come to Atinuke quickly. Now, in the event that a company has just experienced a data breach, what would be your advice for such a company? What should the company do to address such breach and to build trust in the company, kind of repair the company reputation and ensure that such breach doesn't happen again?
Okay, so there's what we call internal and external action. Once you notice that a breach has been detected, you try and contain the breach. I'm going to make an example of just your home. You understand that somebody breaks into your home. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you get the place that they broke into secure and safe. Then secondly, you inform the people, the data subjects, the occupants, and let them know that this has happened. And the reason you do that is not just to stare, not to make them afraid, but to make them aware and know what next to do. Then you look for the root cause of that breach. There must be a root cause. That's actually why you see apps like WhatsApp and the likes send you two-factor authentication and all of that. And they send you prompts a lot of times that do not send this code, do not do this and all of that. There's probably a breach that's been detected, or they are trying to contain a breach or prevent for the future. Then what else do? You try as much as possible to review and enhance your security system. Once you enhance your security system, you check the factors that caused it, and then you try to enhance. Then I'm also, as you're doing the internal, you try to do the external. Why you try to do the external is because of the perception, the public perception that people may already have. Once it happens like that, you make sure that you go through the press. The first thing is press release. You give a press release. You can also do a press conference so that journalists and stakeholders that are concerned can come ask questions. And then we usually designate a spokesperson that will do media appearances to really talk about these issues on prime times. And then from there, from time to time, you'll be sending notifications on education on how data subjects can actually prevent themselves against future occurrence. I think I just had to narrow it down because of the time. Hope I got that. I elaborate.
Before I move to other panelists, let me just take your last word. Now, if there's one recommendation you can make that can help enhance the activities of Data Protection Commission across Africa, what would that recommendation be?
To be part of unions.
Less than 1 minute.
Yes, to be part of unions in Africa. For example, this year, NDPC hosted the 8th African National Network of African Data Protection Authorities, that's NADPA. So the NDPC belongs to a whole lot of unions in Africa, you understand? So with that, we're able to synergize, do knowledge exchange, and from there, builds resilience. So I think I have answered that. I would have mentioned the Malabo Convention and the African Union of Data Protection, these things that we have, but that's actually how we're able, to build that trust.
Thank you. Okay. Dr. Saliu, over to you. Briefly, in less than a minute, what would you say the NBS need the most to be more efficient in its data collection and its operations generally?
One of the most things is the funding. Funding per se, because we have the fund, it will enable us to buy more modern technologies to enhance our data collection.
Okay. Because of our time, I have to cut you short. Thank you, funding. Yeah. Statistic agencies in Africa need more funding, especially from African governments. Thank you very much, Dr. Saliu. Now to my guys in the private sector. So I have one question for all of you, and I'll just take it turn by turn. If you had the power to recommend one key policy or reform to enhance data usage and protection in Africa, what would that policy be? So I'm starting with Vincent, then I'll move to Professor Ahab, then I'll come to Nana. So Vincent, over to you. If you have the power to recommend one key policy to enhance data usage and protection in Africa, what would that be? You have less than a minute. Thank you.
I think it would be more on the education part, educating people on the importance of their data and then how they can protect their data and be proactive about it.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Professor Ihab.
So I would go with the same answer, but I would say that the whole curriculum, especially education from, I would say from the primary school, should actually embed this whole data universe. How to use your data, how to avoid the data breaches, how to avoid what data should be communicated, what data should not be communicated, how to use IA, how understanding how data is collected, how it is analyzed. And if we make sure that the whole new generation knows how to deal with this data, I'm sure that it will be great for the African continent.
Thank you, Professor Ihab. Over to you, Nana.
Yeah, they are just spoken my mind actually, but I'll take it from a different perspective, and that is the principle of privacy by design. So when we are thinking about building a technology product or building something, we need to kind of think about privacy, think about the compliance before you start even coding and before you start building the product, not at the end. What we see sometimes at the end is that they'll build the product first and then they start thinking about, oh, how do we address privacy? But this should be at the beginning and know what data the system is going to collect, how it's going to store that data, and the privacy concerns around that data even before we begin some of these projects. I think I'll just add that as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. So we are on 12 on the dot, in fact, 1 minute after 12. It has been a pleasure so far. It has been also an engaging and enlightening conversation. We have established the fact that, yes, there's data in Africa. Yeah, there may be privacy and compliance issues, but there are certain organizations like the Data Protection Commission making efforts towards ensuring data privacy and protection. Yes, there are all that things that need to be done, such as need for synergy across different organizations to ensure that, yeah, African data is well protected. There's a need for the infrastructure to ensure that, yes, African can benefit from recent development around AI and other emerging technologies and all that. So thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. I don't want the weekend, so let's go and enjoy our weekend. So let's not keep us too long here. Have a lovely day ahead. Thank you to our participants. Thank you for being engaging. Thank you for the questions. Thank you to all my panelists. It has been very, very enlightening listening to all of you, from Professor Ihab to Dr. Salihu to Vicent to Nana to Atinuke. I'm very grateful. I wish you all a beautiful day ahead. And thank you to e86 too for this platform to have such conversation. Have a great day ahead, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.